Hi, and thank you for your interest in the Wholesale Investor and CapitalHQ channel partner opportunity. My name is Steve Torso. I'm the founder of Wholesale Investor. For the past 15 years, we've been working with companies to assist them in connecting their opportunity with capital. For us, to give you a bit of a history of the company, we actually started out as a magazine. And the idea behind the magazine was we'd profile companies and then we would provide the magazine to investors to help them look at a new range of opportunities. And we did that for the first 4 years of our existence. And then in 2012, we went through a transition and we moved the business to being an online to offline model. And what that meant was that we would promote companies online and then we would bring them to offline activities. Because the reality is when you're looking at larger ticket sizes, there still is often a physical connection that takes place. It's very rarely that the entire thing is done online unless there's some sort of established relationship formed over a period of time. And so that was sort of from 2012. And then 2016, 2017, we had a key moment when Investec became a shareholder in our business. And then that was then followed by BMYG. And in 2018, we started looking at sort of our model and thinking, okay, and by the way, in this same year, we actually did 48 showcase events across 7 different countries. So after almost killing myself that year, I then started thinking about, well, what is the next version? What is the next vision for WI? And you realize as a business owner, you typically, every sort of 4 to 5 years, you go through the next iteration of who you are as a company. And I realized that our vision for us was to basically be really platform focused, to basically align what we were doing with our offline activities, but really bring the ecosystem together online. And also, it was at that point that I started realizing that a lot of what people sort of get taught about capital raising is actually quite incorrect, in the fact that a lot of people still feel that the engagement of capital or private markets is basically about sending out pitch decks and then waiting for money to come back in. And that's not accurate. And you realize that for a lot of the deal makers and for a lot of people that have been raising capital for some period of time, you realize that effectively one of the hardest parts about capital raising is the attraction and the engagement process. So that's when we started building CapitalHQ. And the focus of that was how do we build a software solution which actually helps simplify and streamline the entire capital raising process. And then as we started to build it, I actually used my own capital raises, the first one. When we launched the product, I basically did it with my own capital raise first. And because I wanted to be able to say that I've used the product successfully, it's the old example or the old adage of drinking your own beer. And so I did that, and I raised capital. And I never forget, the first investor that came on board, I sent out an email on Thursday. And then effectively on the Monday, I had the first share application come through, and that was a game changer for me. But also over the years, I then learned about how important engagement was in the capital raising process. And I also realized that when you're working with a lot of high net worth, family office, and even professional investors, they can often follow you for a period of time before they actually pull the trigger on becoming an investor. And so that was really important for me. And I'm giving all this context as it relates to the channel partner opportunity for you. As I was going through this process myself, I realized there was 3 main frustrations that founders and deal makers typically go through. One is accessing investors. That's an endless frustration for anyone that's going through a capital raising process. Number 2 is the actual distraction from the core business. I remember going through a raise myself where I remember how much capital I raised. I remember sitting there thinking to myself, well, if I actually just focused on sales, I probably could have matched that amount, right? Because it was just such a big distraction at that time. And so that's a big one. And then the third one, which people don't really think about, but improving the outcome. So improving the conversion rate of how many investors you speak to how many actually come on board as a shareholder. This is something that's often not talked about in the capital raising space, but we ultimately learned that capital raising was effectively a marketing and sales process. So in the way in which we've built a software solution, it's really designed to facilitate and engage that process. And more importantly, the way we've thought about it is how can we have founders or people that are going through an M&A transaction or whatever type of capital related transaction, how can we have that opportunity working for them 24/7, even when they're not? And that's really important. So that's basically been the essence and the foundations of what comes from CapitalHQ. It's solving those 3 frustrations, but on the principle of that is how can we help a deal be working 24/7? And then the next stage about who we became as a company was Now everything we think about is how can we help other people make more money from what we actually do? Because ultimately at the end of the day, we're a marketplace. So we want to provide you with the tools, the education, the information, and also keep building the software and products to help you make more money what you're doing. We know that there's a lot more investors that are looking to be more active in the capital raising space, in supporting portfolio companies, whether you're an advisor, or a consultant working with startups and you keep on having them asking you to help them with their capital raise or access capital, whatever it is, if you're working with startups or if you're working with businesses that are looking to sell, ultimately there's going to be a transaction, there's going to be an exchange of information, there's going to be an observation of an opportunity at some point. So we want to help the ecosystem by providing firstly, the opportunity, and secondly, the tools and the products to assist you in making more money from that. So in what we've built from a product perspective, we've effectively got 6 core things that are unique to us. So firstly, we have our own proprietary investor ecosystem. So between Wholesale Investor, which now has a distribution of over 45,000, and CapitalHQ, which now has a distribution of over 25,000 and heading towards 30,000, we've got 2 of our own sort of proprietary investor networks that we've built in that time. Secondly, we've built intelligent deal rooms. And I say this very often in my content, data rooms just aren't enough anymore. Investors are looking to engage with opportunities, and it's not so much about can I go and transact right now, it's more about they're looking to engage and they're looking to build trust and confidence. They're looking to see how companies have executed, etc. So as I said, whether you're raising capital or whether you're going through an M&A process, basically the ultimate sort of buyer or investor will want to see what that execution looks like over a period of time. And so that's why when we think about intelligent deal rooms, it really helps simplify the entire process for the buyer or the investor in that process. So that's the second key component. The third part is the global investor access. Now we've done an API integration with a large sort of well-known international data provider to provide additional access to investors. So even though we've got our own investor distribution, we know that you may want to go outside that, or you may want to go into different countries, etc. So we just want to provide complete visibility over up to 200,000 investors inside the software itself, so you can be proactively engaging and proactively reaching out to investors, even if they're outside of our network, and seeing their profiles, etc. Fourth thing that we've built that's quite unique is conference software. So that becomes really handy. We know a lot of investment groups or a lot of advisors, or even if you're a sort of an enterprise or an ecosystem player where you're working with sort of 10 plus or 100 plus companies, at some stage you're doing some type of demo day, some type of information sessions, or hosting showcases of your own. Well, we've built conference software to facilitate that and to facilitate that engagement. And we had to build it because when we were doing our own, we realized there was no solution that we could actually get access to that had the elements that we really needed in that process. So hence why we built our own conference software inside CapitalHQ to facilitate either in-person, online, or even hybrid. And it's now at the point now where, as I said, we can do multi-streams, we can do multiple day conferences, etc. It's beautiful software that makes it really easy for investors and companies that are involved in the process to actually engage with each other. The fifth one is a two-way AIML driven matchmaking. So one of the unique aspects to the software we've built in there is that investors see the most relevant companies for them, and then companies see the most relevant investors for their business based on the different preferences and also the AIML that we've built into it. And this is really important because, everything we're thinking about is how to streamline the process for the two sides to actually meet each other, and then also simplify the engagement. So we have built that into the software, and I know that there's no other providers globally that are out there that are willing to actually provide access to their investor ecosystem. The easiest way I describe it to people is that imagine walking into an investment bank and going, "Hi, nice to meet you. What I want to do is I want to access your investors. I want you to filter them for me so that they're relevant, and then I want you to give me the ability to connect with them directly." That's effectively what we've built inside the software. And imagine if you then finished that up and said, "And I only want to pay a subscription fee to do that." Right? I said, this whole industry is typically driven around sort of transaction fees. Well, we operate on a subscription basis, which means that, for the period of time which the company subscribes, they can access our investor ecosystem. And we've also got structures which they, even when they're not actively raising, they can still utilize the software for their investor relations, etc. So, and the last one is the investor search functionality. So, for example, if a company is looking to be more proactive in Asia or more proactive in the UK, etc., they can literally just search, filter, and start connecting with potential investors in that area. So I said, everything we've thought about is how to simplify investor access, streamline and simplify the capital raising process. And ultimately, the outcome of that is we want to help people save up to 80% of the time that they normally would in a capital raise. And the third one is improve the outcomes as far as improve the conversion rates that they would have with the amount of investors that they actually speak to. So that's the 6 things that make what we've actually built from a software perspective really world-class and quite unique. The other element that really also, I suppose, stands out for what we do, not only that's the software part, but the fact we actually do in-person activities at a large scale as well is also something quite unique to us. So typically you'll find we do very proactive with activities across Australia, Singapore, and also the UK. So if it's for companies that you're working with and they're looking to target those areas, we have typically got activities, within a reasonable time frame that they can participate in, to assist their either capital raising initiatives, their strategic initiatives, or their commercial activities as well. Now, some of the other elements that make Wholesale Investor unique is that we realize that effectively the process of capital raising is really a marketing process. Its first stage is awareness, where you've effectively got to help the company go from unknown to known. The second stage is consideration, which is really that focus on engagement part inside the software. And then the third part is obviously the movement towards a decision. So the way we've actually built our subscriptions with Wholesale Investor is that we provide, as I mentioned, the in-person conference activities. We also do media production. So you'll notice on our content, we do a lot of CEO interviews, we do podcasts, because we realize that, I said, people love to engage with opportunities when they're not in front of the actual company themselves. They love to do it in their own time at their own pace. So we provide content to actually facilitate that. And then also we do direct promotion. So for things like, sometimes we can do dedicated emails to our entire database. We can do promoted and hosted information sessions, where effectively, we're encouraged companies to take the process that we've actually used for our own raises, and they can actually implement that for ourselves with our investor ecosystem. And then the secret sauce, which, I think adds another element that we don't really talk about, is because when people come to us, they're so focused on accessing investors, but the real thing is we provide actual hands-on experience education in the capital raising area. We go to levels on the education side, which few people really want to sort of go and touch on, because the ecosystem sold everyone on this idea that you can just send out pitch decks and raise money. And as I said, it's not accurate. So we're big believers on the education side, and we're also big believers on not just empowering you as a channel partner, but also empowering clients, in that capital raising process as well, and helping with set expectations about what it's really like to go through the process. So there's some of the key parts of what we've built from a product perspective. So now what I want to do is I want to talk about the opportunity side. And, I'll just give you my sort of snapshot for myself as a bit of a background. When I came into this industry, I was completely unknown. Like, I was genuinely starting Wholesale Investor from scratch. And I had a co-founder at the time, who basically assisted with introductory networks to start that off, because he'd previously run a magazine which was working with a lot of high net worth. And that was effectively my starting point. And then everything else was built from there. There's a couple things that I've really learned about this space that make it quite special. So whether you're looking to build a career specific in this area, or you're thinking about it as a stepping stone perspective, the reality is it's one of the most powerful spaces to be involved. Firstly, what's unique about what you'll find is that there's a lot of deal flow. There has absolutely never been a shortage in the last 15 years of companies or opportunities seeking to access capital or seeking to go through some type of transaction, whatever it may, M&A, IPO, etc. There is always a range of opportunities to be done. That is this ecosystem. Even with WI, we don't spend any money on marketing, and yet we still have a massive amount of deals coming inbound into us, right? So it's an incredible spot to build networks, to access to founders, to opportunities, and get access to opportunities you normally wouldn't expect that you would, I've experienced that over and over. I'm fortunate enough now that I've traveled around the world doing what we do. I've built networks. I've got investor contacts in every single continent. I've got shareholders from 9 different countries. My shareholders count as investment banks, VCs, etc. We've got clients which are governments, local, international, private equity firms, venture capital firms, property funds, credits, listed companies, you name it, right? And this was all started from scratch. So for anyone that's sort of either whether you've been active in this space for some time or whatever, or you're sort of new to the area, the building of networks is incredible that you get with this type of opportunity when you have access to investors, which is obviously what we provide as part of the channel partner opportunity. The second part is you can create new layers of opportunity for yourself. So whatever your ambitions are in this space, having networks of access to founders and also to investors are really going to come hand in hand with that. So I always say to people, the accessing of capital is one of the most incredible products that you can provide because, as I said, so many people are looking for it. And, we can just facilitate that as part of the channel partner opportunity. And then the next part to that is I mentioned about the building of your own investor networks. The best thing about high net worth investors, family office investors, etc., or even directors of companies is they're always looking for opportunities which are either strategic or relevant to themselves that they're looking to participate in. So it's a very powerful product to build your own investor network, and to me, it's one of those things where I don't really appreciate the full value of my networks until I can send out 14 emails and host a lunch for 10 family offices, right? And that's when you sit there and go, okay, there's probably only a few people. There's only a few people in the country that'd be able to pull that off, right? But I don't really give it too much thought. Or the conferences we host, the net worth that we can attract across Australia, Singapore, the UK, etc. So that even my own shareholder base, I sort of pinch myself and I can't believe, I'm fortunate enough to have kind of people in my shareholder. So the layers of networks of investors that you can build is incredible. The mistake most people make is they just spend too short a time doing it. But give yourself a good sort of foundation of time. The access to founders you can create, the networks of investors you can build is phenomenal. And then on top of that, the layers of opportunity you can create, whether it be now or in the future, are also there. We're already seeing some incredible stuff. So one of our channel partners, utilize this as a starting point, is now actually working on a TV program that they're doing with Channel 9. That's incredible. And there's going to be all sorts of stuff that people ultimately do from that. Then the next one I'd really highlight is that there's a massive acceleration of learning in the capital raising space. Whatever you think you know about capital raising, there is absolutely always more to learn. And there's nothing like doing that than working hands-on and direct, or just being involved in the space really actively, because you get to go through the trials and tribulations with companies directly. But the acceleration of learning for capital raising, and to me, I say this to everyone, I think it's got to be one of the most highest valued skills that you can have in your arsenal. When talking with team members, I mentioned that, obviously sales is a great skill to have, marketing is a great skill to have, public speaking is a great skill to have. The ability to raise capital is so highly sought after, that you only understand it when you actually have that skill. So, that's some of the key things that I'll really highlight from the opportunity perspective. Obviously, there's an opportunity to make money from what we do as far as offering our products to the ecosystem, working with founders, etc. And I've got all the information inside that of the channel partner opportunity, where there's a breakdown of the products, the offering, the pricing, all that sort of stuff. You can find that in there. Just want to talk about a really high level of some of the motivations that could sit in why this could be such an impactful opportunity for you in this process. Now, the last part you may be thinking about is that, how we support you in this process. Well, this has been a big decision for me, because previously we've taught about the capital raising area and what I've learned about the actual process of engaging companies in what we do at our business, we've sort of obviously kept it internal. And this for us is the time where we actually go external with this. So effectively, we will be supporting you with consistent training and education, both on capital raising and also on business development and also on marketing, right? So we'll be providing with full visibility over the types of systems that we use, the software, the tools, etc., right? Because effectively it's taken us time to work out the most efficient process possible to be working with companies. And we'll be providing that to you as a channel partner, because we just ultimately want you to build successful businesses. And as part of that, as part of providing those access to those systems and processes, you'll effectively be cutting out years of the amount of time you spend trying to learn this stuff yourself. I come across people in this space all day long, and I watch how inefficient they are with what they're doing, right? And it's not because they're inefficient people. It's because I'm just fortunate to be surrounded by people that have helped me guide us in the direction that we've sort of been able to build these systemized solutions in how we do things, and we want to provide access to that to channel partners as part of it. And then also what we'll do is we'll provide basically trackable referral links so that you can easily refer people to the products. Some of them can even just buy it directly online, and then obviously you can receive revenue share as part of it. But at least that way, that you can actually have your own sort of dashboard of all the companies that you've actually referred to our range of solutions, and that whether you're working with them from a capital raising perspective or you're just referring to them and letting us work with them, either way, you'll be able to have full visibility over that. So the support part to me is really important. What we want to build is a skilled, highly educated, and passionate people in capital raising and M&A over the next few years. So, this is an exciting time for us as a company. We're really looking forward to working with you as a channel partner. I hope that what I've gone through just now gives you some sort of context as to the history of Wholesale Investor, the creation of CapitalHQ, what the actual opportunity, the foundations of the opportunity that sit inside the channel partner program are for you, some of the actual sideline benefits that you ultimately get with it, and then also how we will support you in the process. So on that note, I really look forward to connecting with you. As I said, we'll be hosting a range of sort of training programs and so forth. If you need any help with anything, feel free to reach out. Either myself or my team can assist you with the process. We really look forward to working with a channel partner. Make sure you complete the application in full. That's super important for us. Said likewise, you can appreciate we've been building our networks now for 15 years. We want to make sure that we're effectively working with people that share the same sort of values and have the same sort of passions that we do. So as much as what you can do in this space, we're very protective of our brand. We're very protective of many different aspects of what we do. So hence why, we do have that application process for it. So make sure you go through that, complete that. I look forward to having a conversation with you in the near future and obviously involving you in our channel partner program.